Despite defeating Jumbo Tsuruta in the historic June 8th Budokan main event, Mitsuharu Misawa was far from solidified as the ace of All Japan. In July of that year, he failed to capture the vacant Triple Crown Championship in a match with top Gaijin worker Stan Hansen, then lost his rematch to Jumbo in September for the right to challenge for the Triple Crown once again. Perhaps Akira Taue could sense the vulnerability in the leader of the Super Generation Army, and decided to throw his name behind a far more stable and credible leader. What better person to become his mentor than the ace himself, the #1 wrestler in All Japan, Jumbo Tsuruta. But rest assured, Misawa, his #2 man Toshiaki Kawada, and their rising stablemate Kenta Kobashi would not take the betrayal lightly. The war had just begun. Before we dive deeper into our matches for today, let's take a quick look at what's been going on with the Triple Crown Championship. You might have noticed that none of the matches we discussed for 1990 were Triple Crown title matches. That's because 1990 was a historically down year for the Triple Crown, although there was a good reason for it. For most of 1990, the Triple Crown would be traded between the Gaijin of All Japan. Terry Gordy took the title from Tsuruta on June 5th, before dropping the belt to Stan Hansen just 3 days later in the famous June 8th Budokan Hall show. Hansen's own run with the belt would be short-lived as well, as he dropped the title right back to Gordy on July 17th of that year. While Gordy was set to defend the title against Misawa, who was hot off his upset victory over Tsuruta in June, real life would intercede. A drug overdose lands Gordy in the hospital the night he's set to defend the title against Misawa. As a result, the Triple Crown is vacated, and Hansen puts away Misawa to win the belt back once again. Hansen would go on to hold the title for the rest of the year. You might be wondering why the Triple Crown has seemed like an afterthought during 1990, and from my understanding, it's almost entirely to save the bigger title matches for down the line. Giant Baba, as a booker, understood that Misawa vs. Tsuruta was the big money feud, but to give away a title match immediately between them would have been too hasty. Instead, he let the Gaijin hot potato the belt around for the year, while Misawa and Tsuruta battled it out with non-title stakes, saving the eventual payoff of Misawa winning the title from Tsuruta for down the line. After all, allowing the Misawa-Tsuruta feud to trade main event spots with the Gaijins fighting for the Triple Crown on shows through the year guaranteed that Baba never had to worry about drawing people in. In essence, he had 2 major draws in 1990 to pull in the fans: the ever-shifting Gaijin names vying for the Triple Crown, and the magical battle of the natives between Jumbo and Misawa. A few things to note right off the bat with this match. Everyone involved is very much looking much more like themselves. What do I mean by that? Well, the best example would have to be Toshiaki Kawada. When we last checked in on him during the Tiger Mask 2 unmasking, he still bore the strangely colorful patterned tights that very much marked him as a mid-carder in a heavyweight world. But tonight, in Kurakuen Hall, we see him in the look that would remain with him for the rest of his career. A sleek black and yellow set of tights. Black and yellow. Colors of warning. Colors of danger lying ahead. I also like how the yellow and black color scheme calls back to his former tag team partner and mentor, Genichiro Tenryu. It's a subtle homage that will find even more meaning later on in history. To start things off, we have Tsuruta demanding to start the match with Misawa. This is a decided change in the dynamic between Jumbo and Misawa, as despite winning their last singles match, it feels like Jumbo has something to prove. He put down Misawa once, yes, but it took everything in his power to get it done. He wants to put these kids down for good. Another interesting thing to note is that Misawa doesn't play around in this segment, immediately firing off his elbow strikes and some taunting slaps. Jumbo and Misawa won't be trading wrist locks this time around. It's a full-on war between the two after the escalation of their September rematch. Misawa is decidedly more confident in this match, really taking the fight to Jumbo and egging him on as well as blasting him with his patented elbow strikes. As great as Misawa and Jumbo's interactions are in this match, a large chunk of the ring time is devoted to Kawada and Taue's developing rivalry. They attack each other with a real fire, their fight even spilling to the outside of the ring multiple times. It's important to note that this might be Taue's best individual performance to date, as he becomes a real highlight of this match. Coming into Korakuen Hall with a cut from earlier in the tour, Misawa and Kawada brutalize Taue's head to reopen the wound. The bloodied Taue takes a beating from Super Generation Army, really testing his mettle. Though Taue gives it his best shot and even knocks Misawa for a loop on a few occasions, it's quite clear to see that both Misawa and Kawada are ahead of him in the game. The addition of blood, which will become a rarity the further we get into the King's Road canon, also adds an element of sympathy to Taue's character, despite being the traitorous turncoat to the Super Generation Army. As the wrestler lowest on the totem pole in this match, Taue survives by being bailed out by the ace himself, Jumbo Tsuruta. Jumbo plays his role wonderfully in this match as the grumpy ace trying to cement himself at the top while selling just enough to lend credibility to his younger opponents. While we know that his interactions with Misawa are fantastic, it's fascinating to see Kawada take the fight to Jumbo. For the briefest moments, Kawada seems like he might be able to crack Jumbo's armor, but the ace is still too powerful. While Kawada has the ambition and the moxie to fight, he is still a fair way away from getting close to Jumbo's position on top. Between the two teams, Misawa and Kawada demonstrate themselves to be far more in tune with each other. They display sequences of beautifully timed coordinated attacks, giving them a real sense of teamwork and camaraderie, whereas Taue and Jumbo feel much more like a mentor-student relationship. Structurally, the match plays out in two distinct chunks, with Misawa and Kawada maintaining significant control in the first half by isolating Taue and battering him and attacking his wound. Jumbo makes an awesome hot tag and completely cleans house, shifting things back in Tsuruta-gun's favor for the second half. The match does dip slightly after Jumbo's hot tag. It doesn't get boring, but the flow and energy do take a hit, and the structure of the match gets a little loose with faster tags and shorter heat segments. Kawada finds himself on the wrong end of a control segment, however, against Jumbo, essentially trading places with Taue as the match's designated whipping boy. And just as Jumbo bailed out Taue earlier in the match, we see parallels of Misawa doing the same for Kawada. The match goes into an extended finishing stretch at this point, as each team takes turns trying to bomb the other into the ground, with Kawada and Taue taking the worst of the beatings. Both, but Taue especially, show some fantastic fighting spirit by enduring the bombs long enough to keep their team in the match. Taue even gets in some close calls with some well-timed roll-ups that show he just might sneak the win over his former stablemates. As the finish of the match approaches, though, it's clear that Kawada and Misawa are in a far better position, as their superior conditioning and coordinated offense overwhelm Taue as they continuously drop bomb after bomb on him. Kawada is about to finish off Taue with a diving knee when the bell rings to signal the time limit draw, in what is billed as 45 minutes but in reality is closer to 43. This is an excellent marathon match that really allowed both Kawada and Taue to excel, shining just a little bit more spotlight on them as compliments to the Misawa-Jumbo feud. This is one of Taue's best career performances as well. It's a crazy 40-plus minutes of non-stop action, even when the structure and cohesion do fall apart just a little towards the end. 4.5 stars for me. 3 weeks later, we find ourselves back in Korakuen Hall, this time for 6-man tag team action. On Tsuruta-gun's side, we see the return of junior heavyweight veteran Masanobu Fuchi. Meanwhile, on Super Generation Army's side, we find ourselves better acquainted with Kenta Kobashi, a man whose work we'll be getting very acquainted with down the line. In many ways, Kobashi is the heart and soul of this particular match. Things kick off with a recap of all the built-in singles feud tied in with the 6 men in the ring. Kawada and Taue continue their heated battle to cement themselves as top guys by trying to beat each other into the dust. Tsuruta and Misawa continue guns blazing in their war for the top spot in All Japan. And as we get into the rhythm of things, everyone's roles clarify themselves once again. Taue takes on the role of the whipping boy, absorbing a large amount of offense from Misawa's side. And we also see a nice callback in Taue paying back Kawada for dropping him on the outside in the September 30 match. The intensity of their feud seems to really have ramped up in that time, as Kawada especially gets to show his relentless violence when going after Taue. Things start getting much more compelling, however, when Tsuruta-gun are able to isolate Kobashi for an extended heat segment. At this point, Jumbo and Fuchi's experience is highlighted by how well they're able to make Kobashi a sympathetic figure through their offense. Instead of just running Kobashi through their typical bombs, they create a target on Kobashi's body: the nose. Jumbo kicks things off with a straight punch to the face, while Fuchi follows up bashing Kobashi's face into the guardrail and then smashing it in with a steel chair. Add in Taue grinding his heel into Kobashi's broken nose and headbutting him right in the kisser, and you get an incredibly compelling heat segment based on old school Southern tag psychology of isolating a wrestler and targeting a body part. As I mentioned in the September 30 tag, the presence of blood adds to Kobashi's ability to act as a sympathetic figure. The use of weapons on Fuchi's part also solidifies Tsuruta-gun as the definite heels in this equation. It's an old school piece of psychology that sets up Kobashi to be entirely believable as an underdog doing his best to survive the onslaught of Tsuruta-gun. Kobashi being lower on the totem pole than Taue also allows us to catch a glimpse of Taue in control and on offense. Already, he's displaying the targeted tactical violence that makes veterans in Tsuruta-gun so dangerous. Kawada plays hot tag, taking the fight to Taue in spectacular fashion, and even fighting off a fired-up Tsuruta just long enough to tag in Misawa, who takes on the burden of trying to topple the ace. Can we take a moment to appreciate what they achieved here? It's a double-level hot tag, timed to brilliantly work its way through the layers of rivalries in this match. When Kobashi attempts to insert himself into the match, an opportunity opens up for Tsuruta-gun to again regain control. But Kobashi is able to hold his own against Fuchi, even nailing his beautiful moonsault off him. But when Jumbo is able to get the tag, it's time for the ace to clean house. Tsuruta batters Kobashi with a sick lariat, then intercepts a Misawa elbow with a brutal elbow of his own. He nails Kobashi with a powerbomb but only gets a 2. Kobashi mounts a comeback, drawing on his endless well of fighting spirit to take the battle to Tsuruta and even attempt a moonsault on the ace. Fuchi interferes for just long enough for Jumbo to backdrop Kobashi off the top for only a 2 count. A second backdrop, however, puts away Kobashi to give Tsuruta-gun the win. Unlike the September tag, this match does not let up for a single second. Kobashi makes his presence known with an excellent babyface display of fighting spirit, which will become his trademark in years to come. But in that finishing stretch, Tsuruta really showed that he was still on top of his game and ready to take on anyone who dared say otherwise. 4 3/4 for me, just shy of the perfect score, but a brilliant piece of layered storytelling told at a breakneck pace. Greatest 6-man tag of all time? Perhaps. There's a few more we'll need to check out down the line. The final match we'll discuss in this video takes place on the final All Japan show of the year, of course in the heart of the territory, Budokan Hall. December 7th, the final night of the 1990 Real World Tag League, the annual tag team round-robin tournament that is the centerpiece of All Japan's booking. The results of the tag league very much reflected Baba's booking of the year as a whole. Misawa and Kawada versus Taue and Tsuruta would be the semi-main event in Budokan Hall that night, both teams already out of contention from winning the tournament. Despite being the climax to the Super Generation Army and Tsuruta-gun war for the year, Baba kept them out of the finals to keep the payoff of either team winning the league delayed for just a bit longer. The main event instead had the Gaijins, as Stan Hansen and Dan Spivey would fight the Miracle Violence connection of Gordy and Steve Williams for the victory in the league. It's interesting to note that based on pre-match reactions, tonight's Budokan crowd is firmly on the side of Tsuruta-gun. The heel-face lines are blurred for this match, as structurally, the match paints Kawada and Misawa as the heels, to match the loyal vibe of the crowd supporting Jumbo and Taue. I think this is a mix of goodwill for Jumbo's tenure as ace, as well as sympathy for the often battered and abused Akira Taue. This match acts as a nice summary of the feud so far, with Kawada and Taue continuing their competitive struggle, while we once again have a case of Misawa elbowing Tsuruta into the next century for so long that Taue has no one to tag in for a considerable section of the match. This extended heat segment on a thoroughly isolated opponent does support the fact that at least on this night, Taue and Jumbo were definitely the fan favorites. Again, Jumbo shows his skill as an awesome hot tag by decapitating Misawa with some brutal lariats. Of note here, however, is that even while playing the hot tag making a huge comeback, Tsuruta continues to sell the damage of Misawa's diving elbow. This again reinforces a big theme of the year and for the rest of King's Road. Misawa's elbow is God. Taue is able to build on Tsuruta's momentum by nailing Kawada with a sweet tope suicida, and in a continued motif of their feud, slamming him on the concrete. It's this cohesion and progression of elements that makes watching these matches in order so satisfying. With Kawada compromised, Taue and Jumbo pile on the bombs and the pressure, only for Misawa to bail out his partner. This allows for a great moment where Misawa goes to elbow Jumbo off of the apron as he did in May, only for Jumbo to catch him with an elbow of his own before dropping Kawada with a brutal backdrop for a 2. Unfortunately, Taue ends up on the wrong end of a Misawa elbow, and despite a final burst of defiance from Jumbo, Kawada is able to plant Taue with a folding powerbomb for the 3 count and the victory. A tight, compact 20-minute plus match that builds off the old school Southern Tag Team formula. 4.25 stars from me. Despite Super Generation Army ending the year on a victorious note against Tsuruta-gun, there was a lot of unfinished business yet to be settled. Misawa and Jumbo weren't involved in the finish, thus leaving their feud open-ended. Not to mention that their singles record against each other remained at an even 1-1. Meanwhile, Kawada and Taue's rivalry has yet to bubble over into singles competition, leaving a lot of direction left for the war between Super Generation Army and Tsuruta-gun to go into 1991. Guys, thank you so much for watching. As always, if you want to help out the channel and keep these videos coming out, please leave a comment down below. Tell me how much you liked this video. Leave a like and share this with your friends. Share it with anyone who enjoys pro wrestling or wants to learn more about King's Road. If you guys want to watch some stand-up comedy, please feel free to hit me up on facebook.com/thejosephmontecillo. Let's talk about wrestling on Twitter. I'm at JosephWeirdness. Thank you guys so much. Once again, hit that subscribe button as well as the notification bell. You guys have been awesome. Thank you, and have a good one.